So Baruch Hashem, we are already in the 8th day of our process. Very soon we're completing the first 10 days, and we definitely made a cycle of a week. So today we're hitting the 8th day. The 8th day has a powerful significance because in Yahadut, in Judaism, we do something very powerful on the 8th day. And that's when we circumcise a newborn baby, a man of course, a male, on the 8th day. And there are numerous reasons why we do that on the 8th day. It's not by chance that it's on the 8th day. It could have been on the 6th, could be at the 12th. Now it's definitely not the time to elaborate. But since today is the 8th day, and since a big part of what we're doing is to rectify many different places that we blemished over and over and over throughout the time, then on the 8th day, since we actually do and perform the Brit Milah, the circumcision, on a newborn baby, then we're going to take this 8th day to ponder, meditate, focus, and to understand how do I have to start doing my tikkun, my rectification, to the same department that is called Pgam Habrit. Now, many people think that the mitzvah of circumcision falls on me, the baby. But the baby can't do anything. The mitzvah is the father's mitzvah. If I'm a father and have a newborn baby, I have to circumcise my kid. Now most men, they don't know how to circumcise, so they hire a mohel and they appoint him to be the mohel to do the job. But that's the external and one part of the process. Then the father is out of the picture, he did his job. From this point on, the baby becomes a boy, then becomes a man. Now it's his responsibility to continue the mitzvah. Now you can't redo the surgery or the physical process, but the mitzvah goes into a higher level, is that it's guarding the Brit. And this is one of the biggest blemishes in our generation and all generation. I mean, it started right from the beginning. Adam HaRishon used to do Pgam Habrit, that he had to do 130 years of tshuva. The Ari HaKadosh says he sat in the gichon, in the water, he was in the mikveh 130 years. He used to go to the gichon, one of the rivers, to dip, to bring purity. He also sinned in Pgam Habrit. The definition of Pgam Habrit is that a man and a woman were created in order to procreate. One of the first mitzvot that we got, Purvu milu et haaretz. And this whole department was created just for the procreation, for the sake of procreation, not for your to spend the time in leisurely. This is not a hobby. This entire system of procreation was given for the first sake of procreation. Kadosh Baruch Hu could have done another system that we go like that and kids will come out somehow. But the Kadosh Baruch Hu created that only for the sake of procreation. Unfortunately, with that, of course, since there's a godly power in that, then the Yetzer Hara wants to get that, wants to get and interfere it. So since the creation of time, of human race, there was a problem in that department, the department of the Brit. Now is not the time to elaborate on that. We're going to do longer classes about it. And not only classes, it's also how do you do the tikkun. Many men and also women get to the point that they understand that this is a line you do not cross, but it was already crossed too many times and in many different situations. And again, we're not going to now elaborate on that. Now I want to elaborate on the fact that there has to be a tikkun, because this is considered one of the worst sins in our book. There are many sins that are severe, but breaking the Brit, it's one of the worst sins. What exactly is the definition? A man and a woman can only be together when they're married, legally married according to halakha, not married in city hall. And like I said that maybe 1,000 times, the majority, I don't want to say in percentages, but a very large amount of Jewish couples, they're not really married. Especially in North America. I don't know how it is in other countries, but in North America, the majority of Jewish couples are not really married, because they're either married to Reform, Conservative, City Hall, and there's not a real chuppah, there's not real kiddushin. And they might think they're married because they spent $200,000 on a wedding, but they're not really married. And that, of course, makes them, they live together, and every time they're together, they're sinning. Because if the chuppah is not kosher, the ketubah is not kosher, the witnesses are not kosher, the rabbi is not so important. The rabbi is actually the least important, the mesader kiddushim, the one who officiates, he's the least important factor here. The most important factor is the witnesses, the two witnesses, and how the ketubah is written. If the ketubah is written the wrong way and there's mistakes there, then that will make the wedding nullified. Yeah. So really, when you're thinking about it, in North America, and it could be very much in other countries, that most of the weddings are not valid. That makes the majority of the couples not really married. And then, of course, it will bring many, many problems. Because first of all, every time they're together, they're sinning in one of the worst sins in the book. So it affects them. It affects their peace in the house, the shlom bayit. It affects the kids in a very severe way. And it does a lot of problems. Many couples, now I don't do it, I don't have time, but in the past when many couples will come to ask for help in their shlom bayit, the first thing that I would ask them is if they're really married. And of course, always I would get like, of course we're married. Yeah, are you sure you're married? Because there's a good chance that if you're not married, all your problems is from that, because you're not spiritually connected. Now, if somehow there was a miracle and they are married the right way, then maybe they were touching each other before they were married. That will also going to cause a lot of problems, especially if it was mamash intercourse before marriage. And many people, even though they're observant, that's not an issue for them. So the fact is that the majority are not really married. And it does causes a lot of problems. And I have a wedding album of couples that got remarried because I told them, you're not married. Look at your ketubah. Can't be. You're not married. And if you're not married, you have shlom bayit issues. You have marital problems. You have a lot of problems. Can't get pregnant. Kids are with all sorts of behavior issues. So the fact is that the act can only be done between a man and a woman, not any other thing. Not man and women and woman and animals involved and all sorts of weird things. Man and woman, and the story. And it can only be when they're legally married. Anything else is one of the most severest sins out there. And then, of course, this whole department is so broken to a point that Hashem Yerachem with what's going on in our generation, with what's going on, the pritzut on the internet, everybody in the click of a mouse can take himself to a journey into Gehenom. And Hashem Yerachem does with that, and the Samech Mem is dancing all the way to the bank on this. So now we're not going to elaborate on that too much, but it's one of the most important things we need to know and to focus that we are in great danger, because not the Samech Mem, his wives are all after to go after men and to make sure that they take their semen, and they get pregnant from that. They pregnant themselves with that. And needless to say, what they bring to this world, all these demons and spirits. So we spoke about it many times in the Zohar, especially with Lamed Yutaf and Naama. And the Samech Mem has 4 wives, and they're all, that's what they're after. So we are in a great danger. So first of all, now we're not going to discuss, but how you do the tikkun. If a man already reached to the point that he understands, I messed up, how do I do the tikkun? Tikkun is not so simple. So we started reading Tikkun HaKlali every day. Check. We started reading Tikkun Memchet of Tikkunei HaZohar. Check. To go to the mikveh every day. Check. Of course, I'm not even saying that the act cannot be done. You can't do the tikkunim and still sin. That's like filling a tank of water and you have a hole in the bottom. And first of all, you have to stop. Now, a big problem that we have in our generation is that, in any generation probably, but we're focusing on our generation, that it became such an accepted thing that even men and women, they I don't even know how to say it in nice words. They pleasure themselves and makes themselves come to a completion that is not for the sake of procreating, and the semen just goes out with no without a kli. If you want, we'll do some classes in Kabbalah, what it means when the semen goes out and doesn't get holded in a kli. It's a problem, because then it goes to a kli of tum'ah. And for the samech mem and klipot and Hashem yerachem, what happens with that? So I'm talking about everything in this department. Don't try to minimize or cut corners. So first of all, one needs to stop. Then has to be a tikkun. But before we even get to that, the switch in the mind has to be done. Because most people think it's not a big deal. What's a big deal? And the first of all, especially that now we're on the 8th day, the switch has to be in their mind is I have to understand the severity of it. I have to understand, even a married couple in the most kosher way has to be careful. How it's done, when it's done. Can do it when the woman is in her period, and even when she's clean after a mikveh, everything has to be done in a very particular way. This is really our power. All our failure and all our problems is specifically from that department. That's why the Yetzer Hara is so forcefully going specifically on that, making that half the world is, I don't even know, how would you say pritzut in English in a nice way? Promiscuity. Even pritzut is worse than that. Then promiscuity times 1,000. You see what's going on with everything. Why? Because the Samech Mem, he wants us to fail in that department. Because when a person becomes a slave to that, that's one of the worst lusts that a person can get rid of. And with the excuse of what's the big problem? I didn't do anything wrong. The problem is that it is wrong, and now of course is not the time to elaborate on that. What we need to focus on today is the importance of putting it under control. And then the next level is, how do I correct it? Okay, I messed up for the last 20 years. Now what? And there are thousands and hundreds of thousands that understand the severity, but lost. How do I stop it? How do I control it? If I already have it some way under control, how do I do a tikkun? If you don't do a tikkun, the desire will be there. It's going to be very hard to get rid of it. So this is a very important thing. I know it's rated R, PG-15, whatever you call it, but it has to be talked about because most people don't want to talk about that. Very few are willing to talk about it and the dangers, the severity, the sickness, everything behind it. But that's a huge part, huge. If you look in the Zohar, the whole Zohar is just talking about Pgam Habrit. And how, what, who, when, and the severity of it. I see with my own eyes how it's ruining people's life in a way that they don't even fathom how it's affecting them. So we're going to focus on two things. First of all, about understanding the severity, and then of course the tikkun. Tikkun is not so simple. I mean, the basic things is you go to the mikveh every day, tikkun haklali, tikkun memchet, and many other things. So there's fasts that one can do, should do, according to the Ari Kadosh, 84 fasts for every time, which is really 84 times 3, but then a person did it 1,000 times. Now what are you going to fast? You're going to fast your whole life? So there are ways how to do it, the tikkun habrit. And needless to say, the emotional, psychological, mental, spiritual part behind it, a person like Yosef, that is able to control that urge is considered a tzaddik. That's why Yosef, whose Sfirat HaYesod, is called Yosef HaTzadik. He could have been called Yosef HaMelech. He could have been called many other things, but he was referred to as a tzaddik. A person that knows how to control that area is a tzaddik. Now there are ways how to get to a point. Listen, I'm also a man. I also grew up secular. A lot of people think that I'm some angel. I'm not. I am also a man. For 30 years I fed my Yetzer Hara with the best of the best. And I developed many thoughts and methods and tactics how to not put myself in this place of danger. Because when the Yetzer Hara pulls a person down, that's it. Once a person's down, to get up, it's almost impossible. Almost impossible. And it wraps us like a snake. You can't even get released from that. Needless to say, the impurity it brings on a person, how the thoughts are being distorted. And then, of course, it takes you to the darkest place in the world, and that's not the will of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. This week, we're starting to read Parashat Balak. Balak and Bilam wanted to curse us. It didn't work. So what did Balak say? Send the girls. Send the girls with mini skirts, high heels. That will take care of business. We can't curse them. We can't win them with an army. You know where we're going to win them? We're going to make them fail. How it says, their master, Kadosh Baruch Shem, soneh zima. He hates this impurity when it comes to this department. And that's what they did. They sent a bunch of girls, excuse my language, with high heels and mini skirts and what? And low cleavage, lipstick, long hair, and that's it. That was the end of the story. Needless to say, to what sin they made them do, what type of a disgusting sin they made them do. We're going to read about this parasha. So all these parashot that we're reading, by the way, you see that they're all exactly what we're focusing on. And this is a huge part, because the Kadosh Baruch Hu despises that. Kadosh Baruch Hu can't stand that. You know, the act of marital relations, how it's called in the biblical term? Mitzvah. That's the mitzvah. It doesn't called intercourse or marital relations. It's called mitzvah. That is the mitzvah. This is the real mitzvah that you involve Hashem in. Yeah, but that's the mitzvah that you involve Hashem in. That has to be done in a holy way. It's a holy part. It's not some physical act like an animal. So this is a big thing that we need to focus on. I know a lot of people don't want to talk about that. Most people want to sweep it under the table. But as we are in our aim is to survive the storm. The ones who are very strong in the Brit will survive the storm. The ones who are not, very little chance that they'll survive the spiritual and physical storm. Because that's the most vulnerable part that puts us in the control of the other side. And if I'm in the control of the other side, I'm totally like, you know how they do in India when the guy goes with the flute and the cobra moves, which is one big hoax because snakes are deaf. So what he does is he moves from side to side, so the cobra, the eyes are on the side, so it moves like that to see. But you know, people believe it. Snakes are deaf. They don't even have ears. They don't hear anything. They feel motion, vibrations, and that's it. And they have a very sophisticated system with their tongue, that they flick their tongue and they get chelkikim, like little particles of air, and they put it inside. They have an organ in the top. It's called the evaria kobson. Maybe in English, I don't know, it's called in English. That their tongue, and they able to process with the particles of air distances, temperatures to like a dot 001 degree. Very sophisticated animal, by the way. So, but they don't hear anything. So this is one hoax when they move with the flute. But exactly like they do go like this. So also, the Yetzer Hara knows how to hypnotize us. You know. So we have to be on guard. We have to be focused on what we need to focus on. The Yetzer Hara wants us away from the focus of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's how the Yetzer Hara does that. Through ads, through what you watch on the internet, through the movies, through every little thing. You can't avoid it. Everything. You know, the Chafetz Chaim, I told you that already. He used to sit in a closed room with drapes. They asked him, why don't you open the drapes, get some air, some light. He's like, I know what's going on out there. And if I'm just going to stand next to the window for 1 second, I'm already putting myself in a death threat situation. So we have to really, today we're just going to now focus on it. From now on, we're going to start elaborating how do you avoid it, what not to look, how, what, who, when, and then of course the tikkun, that the tikkun is not 40 days, it's all your life. Can't do a tikkun for a Brit for 20 days, 40 days, half a year, and you're done with it, because you don't know how much damage you did. And if you do know, that's pretty rare, but most people don't know the damage they did, so the tikkun has to be for the rest of their life. I can tell you already, now this is one of the most severest things. If you work on that and you master that, then you elevate yourself to such a high level that, you know, we're going to talk a lot about that. But one of the many reasons why most people have very bad memory, and especially when it comes to the Torah, is only because of that. Most people, you can't learn Torah and have Pagam Habrit at the same time. You're not going to understand anything. You're not going to learn anything. You're not going to remember anything. So we're going to really dive into that, because this is one of the biggest problems in our generation. So one of the biggest problems is the mouth, that we're focusing on already, we understand. But the next one is the next covenant. And by the way, the covenant of the Brit is also called the Brit Apeh. There's a huge connection between the mouth and the Brit. And a person who speaks lo lashon hara, proven, guarantee 100% that the Priyam Brit is completely damaged there. If a person has strong guard to the Brit, don't talk lashon hara. The mouth and the Brit, Sfirat HaYesod, I mean, the mouth is Malchut, the Yesod, the area there, the organ is Sfirat HaYesod, and Yesod is directly affecting the Malchut. And everything that the Malchut will do will be elevated to the Yesod. The mouth and the area of the Yesod, the Brit, is totally connected to each other. There's a lot what to learn, and I can tell you already that this is one of the most important things that we need to focus on to make sure that we are first of all, holy. How the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants, that we're following what the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants. It contradicts itself to be an observant individual and to fail in that department. That's why the Yetzirah goes specifically after the ones who are observant. Don't think that in the Torah world this doesn't exist. I can guarantee to you in high percentages that in the Torah world it's infected most men. They might not tell you that, but people come and whisper in my ear the problems that they have. And that's infected the entire, when I'm saying the Torah world, I'm talking about in Orthodox communities, Hasidic, call it however you want. It's infected everywhere. Needless to say that when the te'ava, the lust is not in control, then it takes you to completely bad places to do more severe sins. And Hashem Yerachem, we're not making Hashem happy with that. It's actually causing the biggest problems that we have right now. So we have to focus on that. Today we're going to, since it's the 8th day, this is what we're going to really put as emphasis. And by the way, this is for women too. It has nothing to do, don't think it's just for men. Women are just as guilty. So even women don't have one of the problems, but nevertheless, it's part of it. So Bezrat Hashem Bemet should give us the Yirat Shamayim, the real fear of God, to understand the severity, the clarity, the tools, the ability, and mainly the power to fight it. This is a big war that was already predicted by many 2,000 years ago in the Zohar, 250 years ago by Rabbi Nachman from Breslev. This is going to be a big challenge in our generation, and the ones who are able to overpower it, Kadosh Ya'amer Lo, it's going to be called Kadosh, holy. Needless to say, I can tell you that really is the ticket to survive the coming storm. And I'm not talking about some hurricane. I'm talking about the storm that Hashem is going to bring to the world to prepare the world for the redemption. There is going to be a huge storm. What we saw up to now is nothing. This is not even warming up the engines. So, but when a person is kadosh, Yipol mitzidcha elef uvava miminecha alecha lo yigash. 1,000 will fall from one side, 10,000 from the other side. To you, it's not going to go. It's going to be kadosh. Bezrat Hashem should help us to reach to this level and be successful in what we want to do, and bless us all with Yirat Shamayim, Avat Hashem, and we'll be able to overpower this.